And welcome. Today's guest on, I suppose I should say, um, Table Talk. It should brand the thing, right? On the show where I talk to people from the game industry that I have some dubious connection with. Today is somebody who I know maybe the least so far, although I'm hoping that will change because I admire his work. Kennon James is a extremely talented artist, and I say that not just as I hope not as a Goobry fanboy, but somebody who's worked as an art director and has seen. I've done more portfolio reviews than I care to recount, and the number of portfolios that are not just good art, like competent art, but that capture a consistent and repeatable style. That's the hook, right? To have somebody that you can look through a portfolio and here and there they'll be, oh my god, that's cool. But then you look at the rest of the portfolio and it's kind of in and out. But in my experience, in what I've seen so far, Kennon's work has been, there's a vibe, and it's a very consistent vibe. To the point where I think as an art director, I'd be like, okay, I know exactly what this man can deliver, and it's going to come across great guns. So, welcome. And I think today I want to talk about being a freelance artist in the game industry.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So my history is I was all over the damn place in the 80s. So I came up in the second accretion disc of families to play D&D. My dad was one of the guys that was involved with Len Kafka and Gary Gygax. So I was playing since I was 9. So when I wanted to start a company, I studied the game industry, but that was in '84. So part of the conversation here is I've been an art director, but I was an art director in the late '80s. A lot has changed between late '80s. You have to do we did Blue Line Review. The first artists I worked with used Zipatone.
Yep.
Um, the,
Yep.
the
Yep.
the entire architecture of how this got done was night and day to the largely all digital. You get your proof in an hour digitally. Then you click
Right.
a box. We used to get them delivered to FASA. We get these long boxes with the printouts on the blue, and you'd have to go in the corners. And there was a
Right.
guy that did the printing for FASA, and he would regularly just, any problem, he'd be like, oh, we'll fix it. We'll fix it. So, how long have you been doing what you consider professional art in the industry?
Well, in the game industry, the RPG industry, I would say I'm relatively new. I'd say I've been doing work for it for about 5 or 6 years. I did some work for Goodman Games in the early 2000s. I was trying really hard to break into the industry in the early 2000s. Um, but my work was kind of I'd say not cohesive, and it also wasn't what a lot of companies and art directors were looking for at the time. Uh, get a little background. I grew up trying to emulate the early first edition D&D,
Huh.
heavy line art, and comic books. So I really wanted to be doing illustrations for D&D as it was in first edition and or comic book stuff. So I really tried to break into the comic book field in the 90s and kind of failed at that and had a little
Hmm.
just some bad experiences, and so I got real disillusioned. And then I kind of try to pivot into uh, the RPG gaming field, and that didn't really work out. And then I got a job at an animation studio, so I uh, moved to Portland for that, and I lived there for about 4 years. And then that job ended, and I wanted to get back to Texas, and I went back to Texas in the early 2000s. So it's kind of weird that our paths were kind of opposite. But in the early 2000s, I came back here and I kind of floundered for a bit, still trying to do art, and I got a job on a movie in the early 2000s. I worked on that. And then, so basically, I've been doing illustration on and off for about 25 years, but intermittent with some animation jobs
Yeah.
and some video game jobs. So, and it's just in like the last 4 or 5 years that uh, the old school aesthetic has come back,
Yeah.
where people, are respond to that, and there's companies that are doing products that uh, want that kind of artwork. So I'm finally getting to do the artwork I kind of always wanted to do,
Yeah.
but there was never any real call for it. So I kind of just survived long enough until this artwork became viable. So here I am.
Well, and the fashion thing is, I hear you leave the stuff in the attic of your closet until the fashion comes back around, and then
Right,
suddenly bell bottoms are fashionable again.
right, right.
So, in the movie industry, did you do like conceptual or like storyboarding?
I did animation. I did some it wasn't rotoscoping, but it appears to be rotoscoping.
Mm-hmm.
It was for Waking Life, or not Waking Life, the guys who worked on Waking Life. I worked on Scanner Darkly.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
it was as an in-house animation program that we used, that and it was where we drew on top of actual footage, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
the program would and uh, interpolate and extrapolate what the movement was, and it would build out the rest of it. So it was kind of gave it a weird rotoscope kind of effect, and then we'd color it by
Oh,
hand as
yeah, yeah.
well. So
I
uh,
love those movies. It's funny. It used manual labor and hundreds of artists to
mhm.
do now what I think you would just put an AI filter on,
Right,
and you'd set your jiggle at 20%, right?
right,
And it would do what you guys did. Like I would have eaten a bat to be on one of those teams.
yeah.
And I know it's repetitive and I know it was a grind, but holy crap, that's such a cool project.
Yeah, I met some really good people on that project. I said Waking Life. I didn't have anything to do with Waking Life, but Waking Life was the first project that
Right.
kind of got that team together. And then Scanner Darkly came, and then they hired more artists, and I've met a lot of good friends and a lot of awesome artists from that job. And over the years, I've kept in touch with them, and then over the years I worked on Undone, which is that
Yeah.
animated movie on Amazon, and I also worked on Apollo 10 and a half, which was on Netflix, and that came out 2 or 3 years ago. So
I haven't seen
so I've
that
worked
one.
in some projects with that team
Yeah.
over the years. So.
So Undone was interesting. I didn't know it had. Was there any connectivity of not just people, but any of that software? Was it evolved from sort of those earlier attempts?
Well, the software we used on Scanner Darkly was owned by a guy that left, so
Ah,
we didn't have access to that. But the a lot of the animators and people that worked on that figured out how to do the same kind of stuff with different software. So it was not the exact same software, but it was basically the same workflow.
yeah. A lot of that tends to be RenderMan, I think.
Yeah, I'm not a computer guy. I just kind of like when they were just like, okay, this you use this, and I was like, okay, cool.
I
So
just love art and cutting edge stuff.
mhm.
So it's I'm that kind of geek. There's a YouTube channel called Corridor Crew, and Corridor
Okay,
Crew talks about special effects processes. Absolutely fascinating. So talented artists such as yourself, I find they tend to have really fascinating either side roads or gigs. Like there's a great artist I know whose name you'd probably know, who did back glasses for pinball machines.
Oh, okay.
Just
Yeah.
like the kind of like secondary things that people pick up are
Right.
just, in my experience, fascinating. Like, who would have guessed?
Well, as an artist, man,
Yeah.
like I realized a long time ago that you have to be real, like you have to be really flexible. And I don't know if all artists are like this, or maybe they're just lucky and they get to do what they want all the time. But I mean, I've done all kinds of crazy art gigs, from painting walls to just, I mean, just whatever it takes, So I feel like I, I have never. I don't know if I've ever had the freedom to just turn down everything outright, just saying, "Well, I don't really want to do that," So I've had to be really adaptable to
Yeah, I think that's
and to
a
learn new
commonality
skills.
of creative life and somebody that
Hmm.
works on gigs.
Hmm.
It's funny. You even talked about. I've heard discussions about fairly high end actors who are very famous. The
Hmm.
whole like I'm going to do one for money and one for love, or they'll
Right.
do an independent film that makes them $3 in a taco, then they
Right.
go do some piece of shit multi-million-dollar movie just to
Right.
fund the taco movie, right?
Right.
And I think we all have some version of that.
Right.
Like my version is I'm Santa for Christmas because
Right.
I've got a big white beard and I love kids.
Right.
I've written liner notes for CDs.
Right.
So you just grab anything, and there are people that get very auteur about it and who do. I would rather eat top ramen than accept a job that is not true to my artistic goal. And
Right.
it's like, okay, brother, you're swimming in privilege. you
Right.
know?
I mean that's cool, I guess, if you can do it, but yeah, I'd rather pay my bills. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, never been my path either. Okay, so implied by a couple of things you said there, I was going to ask about inspirations. And I'm assuming people like Errol Otis.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All the first edition guys.
Yeah,
Uh I loved Jeff D, Trampier, Errol Otis. I mean, all those early uh, black and white artists, especially. And then I was inspired by the second wave, like Elmore and those guys. But I never had traditional art training, so I've never really learned how to paint. I mean, I guess I can
right.
ish now, but it's never been something that I felt comfortable enough doing. So,
It
and
feels
now I'm all
like
digital, so I kind of miss that. I'm kind of miss that boat a little
when
bit,
you
but
deal with illustrators, I find that there's things in the bones of how they work. And somebody who's also a painter
mm,
delivers, unless they're really good at copying styles, because there
hmm.
are some insane people that can be, hey, give me something that's heavier line or lighter line that's a little more like an early '60s, and they can change their style.
Right,
Those people are rare, as far as I
right,
know. But you can see what kind of other like you're talking about. There are people, if I think if they paint, even their black and white illustration is informed by that.
right.
In your work, I see, and I don't know that this is any kind of particular inspiration for you, but it reads a little like woodcuts,
Oh yeah.
like gothic as
Uh,
fuck woodcuts.
I think that's happened. Un like it kind of happened accidentally, just by my influences more than. I mean, wouldn't say that I'm a big. I mean, I like woodcuts. I'm not saying I don't, but I wasn't. I don't feel like I was inspired by that, but I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I've unintentionally picked up that style just by my influences and my workflow and uh I really like heavy lines, and I think that like
Yeah,
heavy chunky lines, and I think that kind of uh reads like that. But wasn't a conscious decision. So,
And I think so. On Jeff D. Jeff's a friend of mine. He was one of the
hmm
first interviews I did for this
hmm
series, talking about the worm coming around and things getting more popular again.
hmm
He was actually able to do a series where he redid his early works,
right,
and then he
right,
would make them available as poster prints and stuff, and that did real well for him
yeah, yeah, cool,
because of course it did, right?
right,
Like that Elric thing he did, like
yeah,
but
yeah. The deities and demigod stuff he did was,
oh my
yeah,
god.
it was mind blowing stuff back in the day. So, yeah,
And what kid that is the right age who has now got a gray beard was not influenced, shall we say, by his succubus?
yeah, right,
I think my type is partially influenced by Jeff, which is a
hmm
weird thing to say about your buddy, but
hmm
whatever.
right,
Okay, so I think one of the things about the current Renaissance is that, and this is going to be an opinion thing, and obviously your mileage will vary. There have been times where the art has not always been suited to the presentation very well.
hmm
So, and I think sometimes that's a failure of the art direction. So
hmm
you'll see a book where you have like it's a loose kind of smartass style, and then it's Larry Elmore,
hmm
Pastoral Beauty, and you
right,
look at it and you go, this doesn't match.
right,
And I think there was a mismatch for the kind of art. I also quite love what you're talking about. The heavier line work, the thing that makes a statement, and it reads into games like Shadow Dark
right,
really well because it's also in black and white and the kind of pages they're doing with the low word count and the nice strong graphics. That
right,
art style plays, it dances really well with that partner.
right.
So I think that's part of what's come around, and I'm glad that that's resulting in more work and hopefully more and more work for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice. It's a nice timing for sure. So it's kind of weird how it worked out, but yeah, it's I haven't done any work for Shadow Dark specifically, but uh I'd like to, you know.
Well, and everybody and his brother is doing Shadow Dark compatible, so I'm sure there's work out there.
Right.
And the space one is supposedly excellent. I'm going to give that a try probably next week. But yeah, it's so. So the one of the things that I advise people when, because people I'm assuming ask you this as an artist, but as a designer, people will say, "Yeah, game designing, really cool job. How do I get involved? How do I?" And it's like being a parent with a kid that wants to get into acting.
Right.
And you're like, my advice is don't do this.
Right. Yeah, get ready for some hard times.
Yeah. So usually what I tell them is make sure that it's something you do because you love it because often, and this has always been true, there are usually a handful of people somewhere in a mid to large size company that make
hmm
money.
Right.
Everybody else is maybe subsistence,
Right.
So I know in my case, in the current, so talking current industry, it one of the changes I had to deal with is it has become almost entirely what we used to call vanity presses. So
hmm
it's some small group of people, usually one guy that has a very specific vision, and somehow they have money, either a side job like a programmer or something or whatever, and they
hmm
can bring whatever that vision is to life. But the mid-sized companies that used to be my bread and butter as a game designer either vanished or they're not hiring. Like I don't think Paizo, for example, was one of the biggest. Has very many people full time in office.
Right.
All
Yeah.
those
It's
days.
all freelancers now, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's kind of condensed itself to this very lean thing.
hmm
So has it been a struggle for you to find like regular work, like a workflow that sustains your life?
Well, I'd say in the last 2 or 3 years, it's been pretty consistent. I have probably 4 or 5 clients that are kind of rotating when one's, when I'm finishing up one, the guy at the other, that I did work for 6 months ago is ready for some more work. So I've kind of got a good uh, recurring
Yeah.
group of companies that are using me about once or twice a year, but I've got, 5 or 6 of those clients. So I'd say luckily my work queue has been pretty full and consistent over the last 2 or 3 years. I also have a couple of corporate clients that I do work that's doesn't look like anything like stuff I do for the gaming
Yeah.
industry either. So those are good to have because corporate clients pay really well. So that kind of supplements the stuff I want to do.
Yeah, that was part of how I got by for a while. Is I would do GMing as there was a company I literally did it as a perk, so they
Right,
could say to some of the people that are trying to bring in, they'd be like, "Hey, we got D and you know,
right,
and I'd run cool ass games for them. The guy could brag about it because he was
right,
throwing money around. Obviously, these days, less money being thrown around on anything.
right.
So, are you somebody? I know among illustrators, this is wildly varied. Like Jim Nelson, good
Hmm.
friend of mine. Worked with him at FASA. One of the most talented artists I know, probably one of the most talented artists that ever worked in the game industry. He was a key artist on games like Shadowrun and Earth Dawn. And he's one of
Hmm.
these guys. He does a lot of Hearthstone now. His
Okay.
his paintings.
Right,
He's one of these sorcerers that can paint light. I
right,
know just enough about knowing about thinking about like the light direction and the key light and the backlight. I know from photography, but
right,
this amazing bastard, he paints something and you're like, did you see the cockatrice? Did it pose for you?
right.
But Jim is aware of gaming. He's played maybe 6 times his entire life. Like when I
Hmm.
was at FASA, I made him sit down and play with us. And he did
Hmm.
it just so he knew what the hell he was talking about. But Jim
Right,
is not a gamer. Do
right.
you play games or are you just intrigued by the games and the art?
Oh no, I'm a big gamer. Which is kind of crazy when I started getting into it, I realized that most artists aren't gamers, which kind of blew me away because I was
Yeah.
probably a gamer first and an artist second, you know. So, it's crazy to me that so many artists don't game, but uh yeah, I'm a gamer.
So what's your poison?
Well, my favorite RPG of all time is Warhammer Roleplay.
Ah,
Um,
yeah.
I got into that in high school because I was gaming with a group of older people who they were in their 20s. And they uh introduced me to Warhammer, and up until that point I had played D&D and I played Villains and Vigilantes. I played a bunch of different stuff. But uh when I got into Warhammer, I kind of just dropped everything else, and it was Warhammer full, for years after that. I still play Warhammer. I ran Warhammer uh last weekend. Uh
Wow.
so yeah,
These days
Warhammer
that's
roleplay is
hardcore.
my what's that?
These days that's hardcore.
Yeah, Warhammer roleplay is my all-time favorite, with Call of Cthulhu as my close second.
Okay, I knew there's a reason I liked you. Did you play Shadows over Bogenheaven?
Yes. Yep. I ran a group in the 90s through the entire Warhammer campaign. It,
Ugh.
from the beginning uh module in the Warhammer book to all the way until they had Sigmar's hammer by the end. So, yeah, I did the
Wow.
whole massive campaign.
That stuff is absolutely foundational.
Yeah.
And the whole profession system where you start
Yeah.
with a grounded profession that gives you a sense of where you are in the world,
Yeah.
and then you could segue to those advanced professions.
Yeah.
Some of the cleverest, most elegant design.
Yeah.
The only thing
I
I
love the fact that, you had the four main, classes, but,
yeah
I played with a group at T Fest. Funny enough, uh, a buddy ran it at T Fest, and there were several rangers in the group, and they were like, "Well, you're a ranger," and nobody else was familiar with Warhammer generally. I mean, there was one or two people that had played before, but most of the people were like, "Oh, well, we have two rangers." I'm like, "No, no, no, you don't understand. Like, I I'm I was a hunter, and this guy is a
right.
highwayman. Like, our skill sets are different. We're not rangers,
We don't even
So
go to the same parties. Yeah, yeah.
right, exactly. So
No,
it was
we're
cool that you could be a warrior, but this guy could be, completely different than this guy. And
yeah.
D&D fighters are, you kind of have to try a lot harder to make them seem different,
Well,
So,
they tried to address that with the archetype system. The idea that
uh-huh.
each class now has, in the 2024 revision of 5th edition,
Hmm.
every class has 3 archetypes that you hit at second level.
Right,
So it's branching in a similar way. I don't think
right,
it has the same flavor though.
right.
One nice thing about having an embedded setting, which D&D has avoided like the plague, like it
Hmm.
tried to do Greyhawk for a while, then for a while it was Forgotten Realms. I think it's back to Greyhawk in 2024, but it was the system, the setting. It was so ingrained in Warhammer that everything about the write up of the different classes was they could refer to
Right,
the flavor of the world.
right.
As far as art goes, boy, you can't do better than Warhammer.
Oh man, yeah. Again, Warhammer was just like it changed my life when I got the Warhammer roleplay rule book in high school. It changed my life. Because then I started picking up White Dwarfs
Yeah,
and just pouring over those, and just the whole art vibe, and it was just so much different than the American stuff.
yeah.
It was just dark, gritty fantasy spoke to me more than the high fantasy of D&D, and yeah, I just yeah, I really took to it. So
It's that consistency, I think, that gives it such a feel. I mean, that then evolved into. You ever mess with any of the 40K stuff?
I did, but I really love miniatures. I paint miniatures. I haven't painted miniatures in a long time, but I couldn't paint fast enough to do armies, so I was always drawn to stuff that didn't take as many miniatures. Like, I was big into Blood Bowl for a while. Um,
Necromunda was the.
yeah, I actually went to the Games Day in Baltimore the year that they were prototyping Necromunda. So it was
Mm,
like 93 or 94 or
yeah.
something like that. But I remember going to Games Day, and they were like, "Oh, here's this new game we're prototyping. It's Necromunda." And uh,
Yeah, I'm with you.
so,
I love painting. I like designing terrain better, but
mhm,
I like small units, or did. But I
right.
got back into 40K. I do orcs now,
Hmm.
and for orcs, the game design is about hordes. Like you
Right.
need to be able to put 24 boys in a unit.
Right.
So I got
Right.
pretty good at slap chop.
Right.
So I can line them up, and basically you're spattering layers. It's a little
Right.
more. There's a little more to it than that, but honestly, it's what it feels like.
Right.
Have you messed with speed paint at all, or
No.
or
No.
contrast paint?
No. I haven't done when I do, I mean, you can probably see back here is like
Yeah,
some my miniatures are lined up back there, but they've got a healthy coat of dust on them right now that probably needs to be cleaned off. But I haven't painted in a while, but I haven't done any of the speed techniques. I really want to just uh take my time. I'm not
yeah.
really like. If I'm gonna do something like that, I just rather just pay somebody that's that's fast to
Yeah.
just do, and then I get a bunch. So,
I just like the look of a painted army as opposed to having to proxy in or use base
oh yeah,
things.
100%, yeah, yeah, for sure.
I got good enough that I'm pretty happy with my orc boys when I
Hmm.
table them. But yeah, that's why I was attracted to things like Necromunda because it's
Hmm.
only a small gang. So you're painting 6 to 8 guys,
Right.
which I can do that.
I think what's your army in Necromunda, or what's your gang, or
I
whatever they
don't
call it?
remember. I haven't played that in a decade.
Mine's was scabies,
Oh, awesome.
the mutant guys. Yeah. So.
Yeah, my youngest daughter really got into painting more than playing. Like she plays, but the main thing is like painting, and she has
Hmm.
a metric shitload, which I think is a
Hmm.
French term. She's got a
Right.
metric shitload of Skaven. So
Nice.
like and it's not 40k. Skaven are the redo of the medieval version of that. I forget what that's called.
In 40K.
Yeah, well, it's the medieval, so it's kind of the prologue to 40k.
Are you asking about what the Skaven were called, or
No, what the game is. I think it used to just be called Warhammer. But it came back around Age of Sigmar, maybe?
a Mordheim?
Maybe.
Not not Mordheim.
I don't know. I don't play it. I all I've
Okay.
been playing along those
A, yeah,
lines is
a-
40k.
yeah. Age of Sigmar is when they like blew up the world and the whole lore changed or something like that. Like I don't remember, but yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't kept up with it in a while.
So you like the miniatures, but you do a lot of tabletop. You touched on T Fest, so
Uh-huh.
I did want to talk a little about that. So you
Hmm.
were involved in a brand new Central Texas convention, yeah?
Yes, I am. Yep. It was a natural progression of a gaming weekend that I hosted at my house for probably the last, well, not probably, it was the last 15 or so years. And I would have an annual game weekend at my house, and we'd do it for 3, 4 days. And the last one we had at my house, there was like 50 people in my living room. And then my wife was like, "Okay, so we need to have a talk about, are you going to turn this into a real thing, or?" And I was like, "Okay, well we can just stop." And so I was kind of was just going to call it quits, and I had some other buddies that they were like, "No, let's turn this into a real convention." And so that's what we did. So T Fest was the natural evolution of a gaming weekend that we just did at my house. And yeah, it just got so big it outgrew my living room. And now we're doing it for real. And the first year went off better than we could have possibly hoped. And we were our our the number we had in mind for our goal that we would like, oh man, if we hit this goal, was 200 people.
Yeah.
Well, we checked in 379 people. So we almost doubled our 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 big number that we
Yeah.
thought we had. So yeah. So
Were you
now
able
we
to
have
accommodate everybody?
well, we have now we were the hotel that we were in, we only got half of their event space. We didn't want to overreach our first year, so we took half the space. And we did so well that the hotel, they had to have done really well as well, because I mean, we ate a lot of food and we drank a lot of beer. And so the hotel uh uh didn't want us to go anywhere. And so we've signed a 3-year contract with them for the next 3 years. So T-Fest is definitely going to happen for the next 3 years. Second weekend
Awesome.
in August for, yeah, 26, 27, 28. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's kind of the track that I've been following with ChupacabraCon.
Hmm.
Is every year it's a little bigger,
Right.
and it's funny.
We I mean we have a cap that we're shooting for. We don't want to go much bigger than, you know, 500 or 600 people. We don't want it to get too big. We like the fact that it's a small convention, and we're kind of using North Texas RPG Con as our model. We like the size of that, and they've capped it, and they're not going to get it any bigger.
Yeah,
And we're not trying to grow it into a mega con or anything like that.
yeah,
We like the fact that it's small and everybody has a good time, and nobody has to fight to get rooms or that sort of thing. So we kind of want to keep it small. So
yeah.
that's the
I
plan.
love small cons. There's a
Yeah.
I love the Hell at a Dragon Con, but I'm not sure I can go back
Right.
because it's so crowded. You know,
Right.
obviously
Yeah.
there's a lot of room between where you're at and freaking
Right.
Dragon Con, but
Well, I mean, the group of us, we used to go to Gen Con every year,
yeah,
and Gen Con was awesome, so much fun, and it got so big.
yeah,
Now I still miss it every year,
yeah.
but I don't miss a lot of it because of the crowds and the fighting for the hotels and
It was
uh, you know,
central to my year for 20 years
right,
because I was in the industry, and
right,
I got to go with Fossa and put together that giant setup they had, and
right,
that was the balls. But I'm with you. I think the shift happened when they went to indie,
right,
and they thought of themselves as a media con. So
right,
suddenly you had movie people promoting stuff,
right.
and there was a shift. And if you've been going, you know what I'm talking about. There, it used to be. It was always exciting to open the dealers hall, right? Because you could see the new games in advance. You
Right.
often got to be able to demo them. Super fun. But
Right.
late model Gen Con, you can see videos of the dangerous press of people,
Yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
thousands of people like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that no bueno.
Well, the last time we went to uh uh last time we went to Gen Con was 2016,
Hmm.
and we were in the dealer, because we were used to going into the dealer's room, and you just walk around and people were demoing games, and you just sit down and you play games, and it was just, we were really into board games at the time. I mean, we're still into board games, but back then we were really into board games. So we were really wanted to be hip on what was the new stuff, and we went to Gen Con to try the new games,
Yeah,
before they came out. And when we went in 2016, the current of people going through the dealer's hall was untenable. You couldn't stop walking. Like, you
yeah,
had to keep moving, or you had to jump out of the way so that the people could keep moving.
yeah. I've heard
It was
horror
just it
stories.
became it just became not fun. It
Yeah,
was more of like I said, it was more of an event, a
yeah,
media mass. And I've done San Diego Comic Con as well, and it's the same kind of vibe. It's like you have to know it's going to be crowded. You have to know that almost everything you do is going to have lines. Um, and if you're cool with that, then but if you're not cool with that, you're not going to have a very good time. So, and
yeah,
that's not really what we were into. We were more, and so then we started going to GaryCon, and
yeah,
it was again, it was like, okay, cool. That's, we found, um, but unlike Gen Con, GaryCon's a very different event in the fact that it's RPG centric as opposed
yep,
to, Gen when we went to Gen Con, it was more, the dealer's room is all about, board games. And I mean, you could get into RPGs obviously there, but we did mainly just demo stuff
yeah.
there. And then Gary Con's when we started signing up for games and doing RPG stuff again.
I'm
So,
totally with you on Gary Con. Friends drag me down. They're like, look, this is like the Gen Con you remember. Because
you're
they've been
right,
talking like we talked. They'd be like, yeah, we just miss it too. But Gary
right,
Con, they're kind of doing that again.
right,
And it's also got an emphasis, and it's not necessary, but a lot of the people who support it, run games, promote it, they're old school gamers.
right,
Like, I got to play Boot Hill,
right,
you know.
right.
So my two anchor conventions are Gary Con and Page, the Philadelphia area gaming expo up in
Expo.
Philly.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not huge. They're great. There's a lot of ability to be hands on with the way you deal with the public, right? So make sure
Right.
they get to games, they have a good time. I think my line on conventions is that once they have to be multi venue, I
Hmm.
start losing interest.
Right. Right.
Yeah. That,
Yeah. It's yeah. Because then you have to. Yeah. It's a whole nother set of dynamics that you have to navigate.
yeah.
Like getting to and from. I mean, we've gone to GaryCon where there's still snow on the ground, so it's
Yeah.
kind of, it doesn't make that, walking around is not a thing. Um,
But
plus,
most
GaryCon,
most of their stuff is in that one big building. This year they're
right?
doing more in that weird side one that has like the water park in it because they needed to grow out a little bit.
Yeah, the Timber Lodge. I
But I'm
think that's what
honestly
it's
going to ask them, please don't put my games there because I had
right,
one there last year and people didn't show because they couldn't find it.
right.
So yeah, no, I'm completely with you. Um, so you're definitely doing the con for 3 more years, and you don't want to
Hmm.
grow it too big, which sounds perfect.
Right.
Austin is such a good gamer community. Boy, do you know the count on friendly local game stores? It was up to like 8 last time I counted.
Oh, the how many stores there are in Austin?
Yeah, they carry like role playing stuff.
Wow. I don't keep up. I mean, eight sounds right. Some of the guys that were helping me put together T-Fest,
Yeah.
live in Austin. I live kind of out in the suburbs,
Mm.
and I don't really get out much. So I wasn't really familiar. I know about Rogues Gallery and Round Rock,
Yep.
and I knew about Dragon's Lair because it's a big one.
Shout
But
out to
I
shout out
was
to Dave and Randy. Hey, Dave and Randy.
yeah. Hey, Dave and Rennie. I didn't. I wasn't familiar with all the other smaller ones. So I
Yeah.
mean, eight sounds about right. But
Yeah, and there's little ones that open up all the time. There's Tribe. There was a Games Workshop for a while.
mhm.
Wonkos, which was
and
really
then
good.
and then Bat is there Bat City Games or something like
Yeah,
that?
it's
Or
newish. It might have been last
yeah, there's
year.
several that I that have popped up that I was like, okay, cool. But I haven't been to most of them.
Very active. You ever go to Vigilante?
Never been to Vigilante.
Pretty neat. It's a little bit of a game store, but it's mostly a place that serves food and provides gaming spaces.
Right.
The coolest thing they do is you can get a game concierge. So I
Hmm.
took a date there once, and
Uh-huh.
they would give you a thing. It's like, here are options for 2 players. And then the people that did that job had to know the games. They could help you
Right.
pick a game, they could help explain the rules, which
Oh,
for a
nice.
date or something was incredibly cool.
Right.
Then you
That's
order
cool.
like over expensive Austin food.
Right. Right.
Give me
Right.
the $18 sliders, please.
Right.
And then some drinks. But that was really cool. Did you ever go to Staple?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I know Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Uncle Staple. He goes by publicly. Yeah, I've done Staple. I did Staple a lot in the 2000s and the teens. I did probably 5 or 6 times, and then I kind of just got out of doing shows for a while.
Yeah.
I did Staple this past year, actually. Then that's the first time I've been back in probably 10 or 11 years. So, yeah, I'm
Did
familiar with Staple.
did he move the venue from the Metro?
I don't. It's at a college now. I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
It was down off of 35 for a while
Yep.
at a theater. I don't remember, but and then this past year it was at a college campus. I don't remember exactly
Yeah,
where it
yeah,
was,
it's a
but
fairly big space close to that campus down there. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's a great show for those that might be watching this that don't know.
yeah,
It's all about independent art, zines,
right.
that kind of stuff. Chris has always been super big. Uncle Staple has been
Hmm.
very into promoting independent work. Like it's
Right,
his that is his passion.
right,
And the show. So if you want to meet like cool artists that are super into what they're doing, and that will say no to the money gigs to do the thing that they care about,
right,
Staple. And you
right.
could throw them
Staples is good.
$5 for a staple bound, half size journal, 3-page comic. you know, Super
Right.
cool.
Yeah, Staples is a good show. Yeah, I've always have a good time at Staple.
Cool, cool. So you mentioned earlier when we were talking about your books. So you have
Hmm.
some art books, right?
Yes, I do. I've done several Kickstarters over the years. I've done a Kickstarter for my Funky Fish book, which was about 5 or 6 years ago, and then I did one for my Post-it note art, which was called 3x3, and then just recently I did a Kickstarter for my Monsters book, which I have a copy right here, which is all the
Cool.
a collection of a lot of the RPG monster illustrations I did, and I had like near 100, so I just decided to do a Kickstarter for the book. So that's got it. It's got
Oh, that's awesome.
all of them in it. So yeah, that's the one I've just wrapped up. I'm wrapping up the last few uh, orders on that for the Kickstarter, but it's available now on Amazon. So
So, and if you send me the link, I'll put the link in the thing.
okay,
Um,
cool.
so this suggests when you contract with these companies, are
Hmm.
you just giving them first right? Do you retain second use rights?
Uh, Most of them are just getting first rights.
Yeah,
I rarely have any clients that want all rights. I do things pretty loose. I don't generally. I'd say probably 80% of my work is done without contracts, and so I'm not suggesting anybody do it like that. But that's just kind of the way I've done it. Uh, but
that's the kind of
yeah,
thing that works until it doesn't.
right. But most people just are if they know anything about rights anyway,
Yeah,
most of them just want first rights. Um, I very rarely have clients that want full rights and don't.
especially these days. I mean, even back
Right.
in the day, it was only the big companies like Fossa and TSR and GDW that wanted they didn't want you using it elsewhere, so it wouldn't dilute their
Right.
brand.
Right.
But
I'll ask clients, like, hey, is it cool if I use this again? And if they say no, then it's not a big deal for me not to use it again.
right,
So, um, and so, yeah, I'm not really that worried about rights unless the clients really wants them, but I'm not really that. Um, but it's something I'll ask. I'll even ask, if it's cool while I'm working on something, uh, just as a courtesy of just, is it cool if I even post this on social media? And some clients are like, no, don't post it until I've published it. And then other clients are like, oh yeah, please,
yeah,
go for it.
yeah. And
So,
then often also with it'd be great if you mentioned us.
right.
You
I
know,
always do, I mean,
yeah,
that's just, that's all the high tide raises all boats, right? So the more I can help my clients out, the more that I feel like maybe they'll want to come back and use me again. So,
So that's coming around to the new industry versus the old. One
hmm
of the good things is that high tides thing. I
hmm
feel like, for example, Shadow Dark,
hmm
the designer, I got to meet her. She is an amazing person. Like,
hmm
Shadow Dark is not my favorite game for several
hmm
reasons, but what she's doing is very. The whole idea that you've got more food, make a longer table. Like,
right,
Kelsey is a longer table person,
right,
so she's very. I want people using my system just because it might help them too, which
right.
is rising tide kind of thinking. And I think as we've tightened our belts and become leaner, like the people that I meet at GaryCon and Page every year, not so much Gen Con because people were on different buildings. Even the parties, there's different parties that have to be splintered. But at these
Right.
smaller cons, I think we're regaining our community.
Right.
People are being more supportive of each other
Right.
in a very practical way.
Right.
And that said, by the way, if you need top notch art delivered reliably with all the character you could ask for, this gentleman is available for hire, and you should consider working with him. So, a couple of technical things. At what point, if at all, does computer manipulation become? I don't mean CGI. I mean literally scanning, maybe a little light retouching. When does computer become part of your workflow, if ever?
Well, it's funny you ask. I do almost 100% of my work in Photoshop.
Mm,
My work is almost all Photoshop. I very rarely actually do actual pen on paper these days. Uh, it's just easier to uh edit and change if the client wants changes after the
yeah,
fact. I've just my workflow plus my eyesight is getting worse and worse as I get older. So
yeah,
working digitally just works better. It's funny that I've gone all digital and now people are interested in buying my original
uh
art.
huh,
So now I'm kind of trying to go back and start doing more traditional stuff. So I have things for people to buy at shows. But I mean, I did shows for 10, 15 years and no one cared about my traditional stuff. So I just had stacks and stacks of the stuff. And so I was like, well,
yeah.
it doesn't really matter if I'm working traditionally or not. If I'm getting so it's kind of funny. So I'm kind of trying to start get back into traditional stuff, but now I work almost all digital. It's all Photoshop.
So you a mouse guy or a tablet and pen guy?
I am a Wacom Cintiq
Yeah.
guy.
So I know some of the later versions of that. They have a kind of amazing level of control over brush size and feel. I know
hmm
there's actually one that has haptic, so it'll make a little bit like the tug of the paper. Do
Okay.
you fuck with any of that, or is it just traditional?
No, I don't get in. I don't do too much crazy tech stuff.
Yeah,
Uh, I use just a standard round brush in Photoshop. I don't
yeah,
use any crazy brushes or anything. The sensitivity's on, so I can get thin and fat depending on how hard I press.
yeah.
I know a lot of the guys wear the gloves on their hands, but if anything, I sometimes will wear a surgical glove on my hand so I
Mm-hmm.
can like not be so slippery. Like those gloves
Yeah.
that people wear make it to where your hand can slide on the screen better, and I like the reverse. I like to be able to uh control,
You want the
I,
friction. Yeah.
yeah, I want the friction. There you
Yeah.
go. That's what I was looking
Yeah, you
for.
want
So,
the grippiness. No, totally with you. I know a couple of my friends. I think Jim is one of those that have gone to working entirely digital. and people
Hmm.
will say how much for the original, and he's like, I can do a print.
Right.
Like, yeah,
Right.
yeah. I think on the high tech stuff, and this is just me being a technophile guy. In a perfect world, the best tools, you're not having to think about it. So I
Right.
think at the point where those pens are going to give you the haptic, you don't have to mess around with settings or anything. You'll just
Right.
feel it. Like you'll
Right.
drag the pen across and it'll be like, oh, it bites a little. And as
Right.
somebody who appreciates friction and like what the Lego people call the grippiness,
Right.
uh, I think you'd immediately feel it. Like if you had one in your hand, and you know, as somebody who has done traditional art, there's a big difference between just a sheet of, say, copy paper, and you drag a pen
Right.
across that, and then some nice art paper. You drag that, and there's a very like, oh yeah, it's sexy, like oh
Right.
yeah. And those pens, I've played with them. They have that same feel. So when you pull across, you're right. It's all about like sensitivity and how hard you're pulling, but that extra element of it gives you the drag in a way that I found really satisfying.
Right.
So hopefully it becomes something that, it's always the cutting edge. If it gets mass enough, the price
Right.
comes down and then it's ubiquitous. Look what happened with cell phones.
Right.
I'm old enough that we started with brick phones and didn't do nothing, and now we're carrying things that when we were 12 were supercomputers in our damn pockets.
Right.
All
I'm a
right.
big I love art supplies. Like I've always been
Oh,
super into art supplies and trying new pens and that sort of thing.
that store on 35,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
big art supply.
Jerry's.
Oh, Jerry's is so good.
Yeah, yeah. I love buying art supplies. That's even as a kid, my dad took me to Texas Art Supply in Houston, and I was like, "Wow, where has this place been my whole life? This is
Yeah.
awesome."
You
So
stagger around with your eyes open. Yeah.
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 But with digital stuff, I'm the exact opposite because I am not a tech guy. So if something screws up, I can't. It's gonna take me
Yeah.
days to unscrew it, you know. I'm real lenient or hesitant, I should say, real hesitant about messing with my digital workflow because I don't
Right.
speak computer well enough to not screw it up and to put it back to where I wanted it when it worked exactly the way I had it, if that
Please,
makes sense.
please don't break. Please don't break. Please don't break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, so traditionally, I love experimenting.
Yeah.
Digitally, I'm happy right where I am, and
Yeah.
I don't want to mess with it. So,
Well, and the digital workflow also is super good with working with publishers.
right.
Like, and I know the big revolution for me, who's now an independent publisher again, is I get something I write into layout these days, which I know is a bad habit, but it's
Hmm.
fast. I
Hmm.
do my master pages, then do a couple of like key pages that I can reproduce. Then I'll be able to take in work from people like you and go, boom. If I've given you the right dimensions, it's seconds, which
Right.
is amazing. And
Right.
a far cry, like at FASA, we would have to, everybody did have an in-house like copy machine, but
Right.
if you needed something for your layout, you'd have to send it out to be drum scanned.
Right.
And I think the drum scans were like $40 each,
Right.
and it'd be like 3 4 days to get it back. So
Right.
brave new world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I did some early work for Dragon and Dungeon magazine in the
Yeah.
early 2000s, and you had to mail your originals to them. You know.
Oh man, when FASA closed, there was, and there's still out there stuff. They didn't keep a good track of their archives. So there
Right.
was a couple of those really big drafting things that have a
Hmm.
million drawers,
Right.
and things like art from the BattleTech 3025 readout were sitting
Right.
in drawers, and people were just taking them because the company
Right.
was shutting down. So
Right.
tens of thousands of dollars worth of like legendary artwork was just sitting there in drawers.
Yeah.
It was
Well, I mean, I heard the horror stories that when TSR closed, that all this first edition artwork was
Yeah.
just getting tossed in the dumpster, you know,
Well, because the
like
people that knew what it was were gone.
right,
A bunch of them had literally gone to Seattle.
right,
I was working there when it kind of happened, and I was one of the ones that didn't go, so I went back to Chicago. So yeah, the people that did that didn't know. Like, oh, what's this? Don't know. Dump it. We're clearing the place out. Yeah, terrible.
right.
But your digital stuff, that'll never happen.
Yeah, it'll never happen until yeah we get hit with a comet or something, and then it's gone forever. But yeah,
Yeah, okay, I'm a tech nerd. You just got to
yeah.
get your Ruby storage that's non-volatile.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So other than go to T-Fest because it's cool
Hmm.
and personal and friendly. Hire this man to do cool work, and buy his art books because they are well worth your time and eyeballs. Is there anything else folks should know about?
Man, I think you covered all the bases right there, man.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out and chatting. Good hang.
Hey, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. So we'll be back next week, and come on back. See y'all soon.